too often do I see these articles where you have these successful entrepreneurs, like I start my day at 4 a.m. and by 7 a.m., I've accomplished these 20 things. Been there, failed that. It doesn't work for everyone, right? Now, granted, it could work for some, but knowing that like, that's not how you need to operate to take the best care of yourself. Start small, start simple. And that consistency built up over time is going to get you to where you want to be and what you want to accomplish.
Welcome to the Career Changemaker podcast, where we focus on owning your career journey and making impact through the work that you do. Whether you're looking to pivot, transition into leadership, or reimagine your career completely, this podcast is for you. We'll unpack career development strategies, leadership insights, and the mindset shifts needed to thrive in your career. Being a career changemaker means taking control and shaping your professional path with intention. I'm your host, lawyer turned career and leadership development specialist, Janine Esbrand. So if you're ready for candid conversations that are going to help you grow, keep listening. Hello, and welcome to the show. In today's episode, we're talking about a topic that is very, very important, one that we can't afford to not pay attention to, and that is wellness. If you are a professional, a leader, an entrepreneur, a carer, a parent, if you any of those things, you need to really lean into today's episode. I am joined by the amazing Ariel Belgrave, and we talk about her journey to becoming a wellness expert and a brand ambassador, and she wears many, many more hats. And we dig into some of the actions that you can be taking that can make a real difference, but don't necessarily have to feel hard. So without further ado, let's just jump into my conversation so you can hear all of the gems and all of the goodness that Ariel has to share with us. Hey, Ariel, I am so excited that you are here.
I know. I'm excited for this conversation.
Before we kick off and I dive into all the questions I have for you, let's start by you sharing a bit about you, telling the audience who you are, a bit about your background.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. My name is Ariel Belgrave. I am a health and fitness coach for women, mental health advocate, Under Armour athlete, speaker, and I'd say Jane of many trades in the wellness space. I am super passionate about helping women build healthier habits and a great quality of life while they build their careers, their dreams, their businesses. And I am very excited to be speaking today on this podcast.
Yay! I'm so excited to have you. I love that you said like you got all the hats. You're wearing so many hats and doing so many things. And so looking forward to digging into that. You do a lot of different things now, but what you do now is not what you've always done. So share a little bit about your career journey to get here, because I think sometimes people can look at people who are doing amazing things in the world and be like, oh, wow, but like not realize that your world looked very different before when you were in a different career and on a different trajectory. So tell us a bit about that.
Yes. And I love to talk about what my life was like before health and fitness, Ari. So I started my career actually in corporate, specifically in banking. And when I say banking, I mean super banking. So investment banking. And for me, I always had aspirations to climb the corporate ladder. I aspired to be a managing director one day. And as life evolved, there were shifts in what was exciting for me when it came to working in corporate. So while I started in investment banking, I made my way over to the HR space where I heavily focused on employee engagement and employee experience and really found my knack there. I'm like, I love all things getting employees and my fellow colleagues planning events and making them feel like they belong in the spaces where they are. So I dedicated 10 years to doing that. And while I was in that space, that's where Fitness Ari came in. So what's worth sharing is that I was an athlete most of my life and played rugby in college. And that transition into the real world was definitely a tough one because, and you can ask any athlete, one of the toughest things is having another level of accountability that you don't have. When it's different when you're playing a sport and you have someone telling you what to do and you're held accountable to be able to perform a certain way. But then when I got into the real world, I realized I never really learned health and fitness. I knew sports very well and I knew how to perform well in sports, but I didn't know how I didn't know much about going on runs and strength training just because it's good for your body, So I found myself in a tough spot because I was working so much, so hard, 80+ hour weeks. And the part of me that I knew, which was confident in my body and highly energetic, that was like my energy was depleted. I was feeling burnt out and I was not taking care of myself. I was so focused on moving things forward with my career and climbing the ladder that my well-being took the wayside. So we all have that moment where our edges are snatched and we realize that, girl, you got to get it together. And that moment for me was when I dealt with burnout while working in corporate, and I knew something had to change, and it needed to change quickly. So this is where I started Gym Hooky, which is my brand. And I started it basically mainly for me. I didn't start the brand. I started the work around Gym Hooky, which is skipping the gym, because the reality is I didn't have time to go to the gym, although I had a gym membership, and work out from at home and just focus on how I can build healthier habits in a very simple way without stepping a foot in the gym. And that's how my brand was born. So that was born while I was in investment banking. I also needed a place to get away from because I worked so much that my life was work. So I needed a hobby. I needed something else. And what better than health and well-being? So fast forward, I worked with a lot of women at the time in the HR space, and there was a clear transformation in my body, how I showed up, how I looked physically. And a lot of them were asking me like, oh, I would love to be your gym partner. Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, actually, I work out from home, y'all. Like I'm 15, 30-minute workouts is what I have time for. And that's what I'm doing. I'm very committed to it. And I ended up having a lot of women who wanted to know what my regimen was. And I ended up starting a Tumblr to give them access to all the workouts I was doing. So I want to share that because that version of me, I say I turned my own pain into a purpose. I didn't realize that this was something that was tough for a lot of my colleagues and the women around me. So I ended up creating a movement around skipping the gym and working out from home. Fast forward, continued to side hustle for 5 years and worked for a startup, worked at Meta, doing employee engagement, employee experience. And then 2020, I made that call that it was time for a shift. I was literally living a double life. So at this point, I became an Under Armour athlete. So I was face of Under Armour on billboards, and I would be using my PTO to go to shoots, but then also have these big projects to work on. And I knew that it was time to make a choice. And that was where my big pivot took place.
Oh my goodness. So I love everything that you shared. There's a few things that stuck out to me from how you described your journey. One was, it's so interesting to me that you were an athlete, but you didn't really know fitness, or how to look after your body. I feel like there is an assumption that if you're an athlete, you're all into nutrition and fitness and doing all the things. So that's really interesting to me. And I think sometimes, not just with athletes, I guess with other industries too, we can assume that if someone's in a certain industry or does a certain thing, then they know everything there is to know about that area.
Yeah.
Isn't always the case. So yeah, that's a revelation.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's true. Very much so. Because you don't really, and when I think about the younger version, I just knew that it was less of eating healthy. I also played a sport that required a lot of energy. So I was a lot of carbs, just a completely different lifestyle than when I became a grown adult, right?
So good. And then the other thing is the fact that you ended up doing something for yourself and then other people wanted to know how to do it. And that's kind of how you built this movement. So it sounds like it was a very organic thing rather than you setting out and saying, right, I want to find people that will follow me. It was no, I'm just going to do this for myself. And then people are interested.
Total accident. Yes, absolutely.
How did you, and with having a side hustle, I know how that is because I was working as a lawyer and building my coaching business on the side, doing both and switching gears. How did you manage that period though, when your side hustle was growing and you were so visible, you're on billboards and you're brand ambassador, being a brand ambassador, surely that's hard to do when you have colleagues that know you. So talk a bit about living that double life, because there are some people that are oh, I might want to do a side hustle, but what does the practicality of that actually look like? If you've been working towards your career goals and you're feeling like things are not moving as quickly as you want them to, I'm here to tell you that working harder isn't the answer. Getting seen is. If working hard was the key to career success, you'd already be where you want to be. But the truth is, opportunities don't just come from effort, they come from visibility. You don't need to do more to get ahead. You need to be seen, heard, and recognized for what you are already bringing to the table. And that's exactly what I help my clients to achieve in my one-to-one career strategy and executive coaching program. If you're ready to get recognized as a thought leader in your industry, attract more career boosting opportunities without adding more to your plate, and leverage things like podcasting, speaking, or creating content to build a powerful door opening personal brand, then let's create a plan to amplify your presence and position you for those bigger, better opportunities. And let's do it in a way that is aligned with your strengths, your personality, and ultimately who you are. If that sounds good to you, book a fitting call with me today. Head over to careerchangemakers.com/call and let's talk about how we can get you noticed and help you accelerate your success without doing more hard work.
Yeah, that's a great question. So one thing I would share, so I mentioned that I started my side hustle when I worked in banking. And this was something that my colleagues were very aware of. When I got to Meta, I was very reluctant to share the double life that I was living with my colleagues because I was just getting started in this new world. And I didn't want anyone to think I was distracted. Fast forward, a colleague saw me on a billboard and was literally like, I definitely saw you on the bill. I was like, no, I don't think that was me. She was like, girl, yes, it was. And the reason why I share this, I think, is important because the how it was received was very well. Like my colleagues were like, we want to support you. This is so cool. Like we like when I mean going forward, they celebrated everything and anything that was related to the brand I was building. How in the months before I decided to leave Meta, for example, they asked me to bring Gym Hooky to a stage and to lead 10,000 women through a workout at one of their biggest conferences. So like they really wanted me to fuse those worlds in. Now, to answer your question on how I did it, I had to be a stickler of my time, but also set boundaries. There was definitely excitement around what I was doing because they're like, oh, we have a celebrity in this meeting, but I had to set boundaries, be like, y'all, we're here for this HR meeting. But it was really a blessing to have that level of support. But I had to set boundaries with my colleagues, set boundaries with myself. Reality is I had to use my PTO time. As I mentioned, I would work weekends, work nights, and it was fun for me. I didn't see it as a job. It was really fun for me. As I mentioned, I needed to find a hobby to step away from because I was working so much. So I have just naturally always been a community builder, and it worked out to just focus on this outside of work. Never have I ever thought I would be an entrepreneur. I didn't have any entrepreneurs in my family. Everyone worked in corporate or hospital of some sort. So I didn't have aspirations to do that, which is why I think I had so much fun in the process accidentally building, because I didn't plan to leave corporate until it happened.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I think when you find that thing that you really are passionate about, it doesn't feel like work. Like you're building the thing, but it doesn't feel like work. For me, when I was building my business, I had just had my babies, well, my first baby. Mm-hmm. So I was like 6 months into motherhood, and I was at the point where I was like, okay, now I figured out how to keep this human alive. I now want to do something for me. So building my business was like, I get to do something that's creative and like teach myself new things, and it's all about me. And I think having it where it's something that you really love doing as a starting point just makes it so much easier than trying to like do it because you're just trying to build something. Like sometimes people can have the idea of like, I want to have a business, and then it's like, okay, what can I do? And then try and figure out a thing that you can do versus starting with something that you're like passionate about or that you really have, right? Because you spend so much.
Yeah. And you know what I'll also say? I feel like I had more of the creative freedom because I wasn't relying on it to make money right away, right? So there's pressure when folks start a business and they're like, okay, I'm going to go all in. I have this vision. I have this idea. But then obviously we have bills. There's financial stability of some sort that's needed. It's another layer if you're a parent or a caregiver, and it's more than yourself that needs to be that getting money and paychecks needs to be relied on. And I think for me, or I know for me, it helped that I had a full paycheck. So building this really did seem fun. It seemed natural. I was building a community organically, but I also didn't have to worry about making money out the gate. So when it was time to make that transition, I actually had already a lot to work with. I had clients at that point. I had taught classes. I led workshops. I did community events. I did so much and had so much data to the point where I knew, and I was very confident that what I was leaving for, there was more. I left mainly because I knew I was capped at possibility. There was only so much I can do while working full time. And I knew that there was more for me. And my mentality was also like, I could always come back, right? Like if this doesn't work out, I could come back. But I wasn't that also, I felt like I could always come back, right? Like if this doesn't work out, I could come back. But I wasn't that also, I felt like it was going to work. So
it's like, I'm going to bet on myself, but there is a fallback plan, but I probably won't need it.
Yeah. Yeah. But I was very smart during that time. I was, my husband and I, we had just important conversations of what it looks like for one person to become an entrepreneur. And eventually it was both of us becoming entrepreneurs, but we had to look into our lifestyle and see what things that we needed versus what we wanted when it came to how we spent money and budgeted and our rent. And we're living in New York and there were so many layers, but that just helped us think about what it looked like for us to be successful entrepreneurs and be comfortable on the journey.
And there's a level of like planning and intention that you had there to make that possible. And I think sometimes when people want to do something new or different, and it doesn't necessarily have to be entrepreneurship, it could be like going for a new role, people could not see the vision because they haven't done it yet. And so then it's like, I can't see it, so I can't do it. And actually, it can just be like, rather than can I do it, can I not? Like, how can I do it? How can I possibly make it happen? Makes it so much less or feel less risky when you.
Yeah. And I'm going to add another layer on there because, right, you have now these days where entrepreneurship is the sexiest thing, like being your own, building wealth, your own business. And I love everything about entrepreneurship. But one thing I always tell people is really be clear on your why, because entrepreneurship is hard. And I think for me, while I was also in a place where, I mean, I had to choose, but I was also dealing with burnout, even my corporate work coming to an end, I had to make sure I was running to something and not from. So oftentimes I've seen entrepreneurship be that like escape because folks are like, oh, like I just can't work in corporate. Like I want more freedom. And it's like, but really, what is your why? Because it may take time to even get that freedom, sometimes years, because you have to build the foundation. So make sure what you are choosing to explore for entrepreneurship is something that you're truly deeply passionate about and you're willing to sometimes not make money up front, right? I mean, it depends on what you're doing, but I've seen it be different on both ends.
Yeah. It's so true because I think it is very much glamorized. And it's like when you're in your job, you have one role within the organization. So for you, you were in like HR. But then you go into your business and you are HR, you are finance, you are marketing, you are sales, you are delivery, you're doing all the things. So it's like, really, you're not trading it for something easier. It's just very, very.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you have resources. So that's the other thing. It's like, and when you're in corporate, when you think about how much you're able to achieve and how you're able to climb the ladder and move fast in your career, a lot of the times, unless you're working for like a startup, there are resources. When you become a business owner, you have to pay for those resources. You have to find those resources if you don't have the means for those resources in the early stages. So there's so many layers. And granted, I will scream entrepreneurship from the mountaintops. I feel like I've really been able to build something that I am truly obsessed with, but I also know it takes time. So I don't want to like sway anyone away from exploring entrepreneurship. It's just more of the realities of like what's required up front.
Yeah. And you mentioned that when you were in corporate, you experienced burnout. Talk to me a bit about how you've managed the transition into entrepreneurship now that you're managing yourself, right? Because I think sometimes when we say like, I'm going to start my own business and we feel like I can I can be my own boss and I can have the freedom. Like, yeah, you can, but if you don't set boundaries, or if you like have a perfectionist mindset, or like you're very much like a workaholic in corporate, and you don't be intentional about shifting that in entrepreneurship, you can recreate the same problem that you had in corporate. So I'd love for you to share a bit about how have you navigated shifting the way that you lead yourself now that you're in your business, and how you're incorporating like wellness into there versus how you did in your job.
That's a great question. One thing I'll share is that when we think about like skills that are transferable, our habits could be transferable too. So you may have, in my case, like, I want entrepreneurship, I want freedom, but exactly what you mentioned, there's some of those habits of like being a workaholic can also be transferable. And then you realize part of it is you versus blaming the environment that you're in, right? So for me, I knew that there were things I had to both learn and unlearn, because I worked in a role that had global impact. And while you work sometimes in these environments, they're like, move fast, break things. Like, it's okay for it not to be perfect. No, I was in a role where like mess ups couldn't happen. It was going out to the whole company, thousands of 30,000 people. The projects I was working on, there was very little room for error. And I mentioned that because that was something I had to unlearn, because I couldn't wait until something was in its most perfect state to release out into the world. If I created a wellness program, and what really helped me was being a part of programs to teach me that. So you can't assume that you're going to come out the gate and start being a business owner and you know everything just because you worked in corporate.
Yeah.
You got to move differently. And these are some of the things that I had to learn. I also had to shift. So I had to shift my perfectionism mindset. The program I was in challenged me to like build a plane while I was flying it. And it was hands down the best thing that I learned on this entrepreneurship journey, or at least one of the many things that I learned. Yeah. The softest heart need the firmest boundaries. That is I. So recovering people pleaser here. And I realized that boundaries needed to be set, whether it is boundaries with my family, boundaries with myself, boundaries with my clients and the people I work with. I was definitely someone who started out the gate of like wanting everything to work, wanting everyone to have the best experience, and saying yes to everything. And I've had to learn over time that it's okay to say no, but no doesn't mean it's an end of an opportunity. No also doesn't mean that you're missing out on a big opportunity, because it could be actually leaving room for a bigger opportunity that's more aligned. So these are things that I think had to build my confidence to. That's like a confidence builder, right? Where it's like, nope, I'm going to say no to that, because I actually believe my faith is next level, and I know that something better is coming. When it comes to my well-being, I have set up my schedule to align with my energy. So Mondays and Fridays, I don't schedule meetings. Before, I found myself being in catch-up mode on weekends because I had meetings Monday through Friday. And a lot of times coming out of those meetings, you have something that's a takeaway, whether you owe someone something or something you got to do. And what I found was not scheduling meetings on Mondays allowed me to prepare for the week ahead, or at least catch up on anything that I may not have been able to catch up on Friday. And Friday lets me know that I have a buffer time to work with if there's anything that I owed by the end of the week from the previous conversations I had. And that has been, I've been doing that for 3-4 years, and it is one of my biggest boundaries, unless it is a meeting that like, I'm about to get a whole lot of dollars in my bank account. There's that. And then I also do solo trips. I schedule time away from my home, and I'm so grateful to have a partner who is just supportive. We've been together 15 years since our junior year of college. So he's been rooting for me every step of the way on this journey. But I do solo trips because for me, I know I need to separate myself from the environment since I work from home and things like that. So that allows me to do a reset. I try to do at least twice a year, sometimes by myself, others traveling by myself, and then meeting up with friends who may be trying to do something similar. And then we just create that space to like talk about business and challenges and talk through it. And that has served me so well with making sure I'm managing my well-being.
Yeah, I love that. I think finding what works for you is so important. And I think sometimes whether you're leading your business or you're leading in an organization, you can look to other people for the model of leadership. But actually, it's like what works for you, like, and you have to live it to realize that, oh, hold on, I don't want to have meetings on Monday or Friday, like that's not working for me, and be open to adjust. And I love the sound of like the solo trips. I've been away for like business things, like a conference or different things by myself, and I'm just like, I never understood before why someone would go away by themselves, but now I understand fully fully why you want to go away by yourself. Like, as somebody who is, you've lived a little, you realize that actually we don't always need to.
And, you know, it's because you lived a little. And I will say, so I do, I host international wellness retreats for women, Bali, Thailand, Costa Rica. And what I will say is what the number one thing when I know a woman is coming to my retreat for the very first time, it's typically the same pattern of communication, which is along the lines of take actual time to pause, right? A lot of us who are ambitious, we are accustomed to going on vacation. And let's be real, sometimes we need a vacation from the vacation because we filled up the vacation with so many activities. Now, granted, I get it. When you're visiting a new place, you want to maximize however much that ticket was or what the accommodations were, the cost to stay. However, the goal for the type of retreats that I do is like, oh, we're going to have fun. But like in the beginning parts, the first 2 days, I promise you won't regret it. Just take time for yourself to slow it down. And I realize so many of us, and I say us being women of color, Black women, we are uncomfortable, especially if we're accustomed to going.
Yes, 1000%. When I tell you, I have an injury, and every podcast in this series, I've been talking about this injury because it's a lot. But it's literally like I can go on a trip and be somewhere else and do nothing. But this, being in my normal environment and doing nothing, like, what is that? I was literally like, I don't know how to, I don't know what this is. Like, I can't do this. And I think for people who are very driven and ambitious, it's almost like recognizing the value in that. Like for me right now, the way that I've been able to reconcile it is this is valuable time, like for me to take stock, to recharge, to rethink, to do all the things and just explore, I don't know, hobbies or things that I want to do. I've got into adult coloring, which I wasn't really doing before. Like there's things that are coming out of this season, but it's like, if you don't see the value in pausing, you're not going to do it. So for you, when you're doing like your retreats with women who are normally like high flyers and doing the things, how do you encourage them around the why behind the pause? Because it can just feel like, well, I'm just sitting around. What's this? Why am I just sitting around? It's like, you are, but like, what is that doing for you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I am very intentional with how I design every waking moment of the retreats, but also take into account that there are times that I want for them to have downtime. One of the things I do from the get-go, like they arrive the next morning, I have them write a letter to their 7-day-old self, speaking to the ways they want to feel by the end of the retreat, the things they want to think about, if there's any important conversations or decisions that they need to make when they get back home. And I have them write this letter to themselves, and they literally get like 30 minutes to do so. And sometimes ladies are ending it with pages and pages, but that is, sometimes it needs to come from ourselves versus someone else, because at the end of the day, they know why I created it for them to be there. But now it's up to them to really think about, what does it look like to be intentional with my time? If I'm someone who's feeling very stressed out, what are the things I need to focus on while I'm here? What do I need to rediscover? How do I need to reset? What actually will re-energize me, knowing what it looks like maybe at home, and you need to have something entirely different here. So that letter honestly speaks volumes. And the way it's set up is they'll write it, I'll put it in an envelope, they seal it, and I give it to them at the very end. But that is their way, my way of holding them accountable. But it's almost like a manifestation. I love writing letters to my future self. It's a practice that's worked, but that helps them realize what are things they actually need to focus on versus filling it up with other things. I also always say that poor well-being comes at a very high cost. So if they choose not to take care of themselves now, it's going to impact them in some way in the long run. Even if it's not 7 days from now, it could be 7 years, it could be 7 months, like, you know what I mean? So, and think about why you're here.
Yeah, so important. What are some of the things that people should be doing more of? Like, I feel like when it comes to fitness and wellness, there's certain things that people are like, yeah, I know I should do that. I should totally do that, but don't do it. I'd love for you to speak to, particularly for people who are in the corporate space, what are some of the things that are important to do and why are they important to do them? Because there are so many people that experience burnout and might not even realize that they're experiencing burnout. And there's other things that come up for people because they're not looking after themselves. What can people be doing more of? And what can organizations encourage their employees to be doing more of?
Yeah. So one thing I'll share, which is probably going to be the most obvious, is use your PTO, like actually use your PTO. 50% of US employees do not use all their PTO by the end of the year. For whatever reason that could be, whether it's fear of stepping away from work, fear or just wanting to collect it. So then they'll have like a lot more, but then now you have a lot of companies who are having cutoffs so it can be used, but using your PTO for starters, and not only using it for sometimes others where it's like, oh, I want to take my family on a week-long vacation. It's like, okay, great. Sometimes we come back from those vacations because you were the one managing the entire experience and you're a little tired. But what does it look like to use your PTO, or even if your company offers a mental health day for yourself? And it doesn't have to be you have a doctor appointment. You could use it for that. But what would it look like for you to just treat yourself to a day of well-deserved self-care? I think what companies, there are plenty of things that people can do. So another thing I'll add is a shift of the all or nothing mindset. So what I see a lot of people struggle with is if they can't work out for an hour, or they can't have 3 healthy meals a day, whatever that healthy habit is, they choose not to do it at all. And if there's anything I learned from my journey before becoming the fitness and wellness expert and just focusing on me, is that the small things have the biggest impact and changes. Focus on one great thing that you can do that day. One thing that I tell my clients to practice is habit stacking. So think of a routine that you currently have that is literally you doing it with your eyes closed. And how can you add something on to that routine? It could be a routine that's related to the personal side of things. It could also be a routine that's related to the professional side of things. For example, if you're someone who works from home and you have Zoom meetings, what would it look like for you to walk on those meetings? Whether you have a walking treadmill, definitely worth the investment, or it's nice out and you take a walk, and you can specifically target meetings that you just may be responsible for being on, but you don't need to take notes, and more you're listening in because you have to. Sometimes those meetings, first of all, if you're in those meetings, I need you to work to get out of them and just... Why are you there? Think about your time, okay? But I've seen that work very well because it's not something where you're flipping your entire routine upside down. Too often do I see these articles where you have these successful entrepreneurs, like, I start my day at 4 a.m. and by 7 a.m., I've accomplished these 20 things. Been there, failed that. It doesn't work for everyone, right? Now, granted, it could work for some, but knowing that, like, that's not how you need to operate to take the best care of yourself. Start small, start simple, and that consistency built up over time is going to get you to where you want to be and what you want to accomplish. As far as companies and the things that they can do better is making it being truly a part of their culture versus leaving it up to the individual to take care of their well-being. Gone are the days where you just give a resource, a tool, a Calm app, the Headspace to an employee and say, work on your mindfulness. And now it needs to be embedded in the team culture, the organization culture, the company culture. It should not just be coming from HR. Leaders in every organization should not only be talking about it, but they should be showing it and what that looks like. That can look like not responding to messages when you're supposed to be on PTO. That could be holding your team accountable for one wellness goal they have and checking in on it. There are just so many things.
Yeah, I think that's so important. We're working with an organization, and working with the employees within the organization and them kind of being like, oh, I'm working on the weekends and I'm working in the evenings, and we're, as coaches, we're like, why are you doing that? And they're like, well, my manager's emailing me, so because if they're emailing me, they're working, so that means I'm working. So there's a level of like, yeah, tell the people, but also you need to model what it is you need them to do. And I love what you said about just doing something. Like, you don't have to do the whole shebang. Like, I've started doing chair workouts because I'm like, I can't just be doing nothing for like the next 3 months. And I was like, this is actually a workout. I could still work out even though my leg's not working. Which initially, when I was like, I can't do this, I was like, I'm not going to be able to work out for 3 months. But then I had to be like, is that really true? Or is there anything that I could potentially do? So I love that mindset around what small thing can I commit to and add it to what I'm already doing, versus it feeling like this big, okay, I need to get fit. And like I need to do this whole big thing, and it just feels too big. So you just don't do it.
That's right. And literally going back to the basics before you start looking up supplements online and all these fancy things that you see on TikToks on the internet. Did you drink water today? Did you move your body for 15 minutes, maybe go on a walk, right? Like, did you have a moment just for yourself to pause and breathe? Like, it's the simple things that did you get sleep? Sometimes doom scrolling is like a thing with social media. So there are smaller things that we can do versus feeling like it needs to be this whole routine where we go from 0 to 100. What I always tell people is, if you don't see yourself doing this routine 1 year from now, it isn't one that you should be trying to start, because you're probably chasing after shorter term results. And what happens is you can hit those results, but then are you going to be able to keep up with the very things you did to get there? And wellness is not a destination. It's absolutely a journey, and it's going to look different depending on the season that we're in our lives, in our business, in our families, and so forth.
Yeah. So even that, being able to look at it and adapt and say, in this season of my life, like if you're moving into a new job and it is really busy and it is intense, it might be different from when you're settled in a role, or if you have shifts in your family. So I think, yeah, it's important for people to really understand that. So good. So when we think about like the climate that we're in right now, like 2025 is already starting off a bit cray in so many ways.
Ciao.
And I think that like people are there's just so much, right? There's so much for us to hold and to manage and to notice what's happening, and then things are happening in our lives individually. And social media means that we're always on, and information overload. What would you say people should or could do if they are in this time feeling like it's just a lot? Like, from a managing their body point of view, I feel like that could be helpful for people.
Yeah, I think this goes back to what are the small things that you can do to take care of yourself. So I think when it comes to being inundated with a lot of information that could be frustrating, scary, all the emotions, ... in the climate that we're in, we also have to be okay with choosing ourselves and managing our energy. So outside of the wellness things on drinking water and nutrition, it is managing your energy, right? Do you need to take breaks from social media so you don't feel as overwhelmed with what is going on in the world? It doesn't mean that you don't care. It means that you are taking the best care of you so you can show up for whatever that you may need to show up for. It also means that you may need to set boundaries, right? There may be someone who always wants to talk about it in your circle. And what does it look like for you to tell them that, hey, don't want to really talk about that right now, right? Or if there's group chats that you're in, truly managing your energy, because listen, once your energy is zapped, there's nothing for you to give and provide. And that's not serving you if you're a parent. That's not serving you if you're a leader in an organization. It's not serving you if you're a caregiver, a partner, you name it. So think of it that way. I think outside of that is leaning into the things that actually bring you joy. Is it coloring, like what you mentioned earlier on? Finding that inner kid again, is it dancing? Is it trying a new activity? Is it learning to sew? Like there's so many things that does not have to be you being on social media and being present there, and just be present in other places for the activities that actually can fill up your cup.
Yeah. And just trying new things so that you realize that, oh, actually, I quite like that. And there might not be a reason. Like when we're used to doing things for results, it's like you can be very much like, if I do this, I'm doing it because of this. But like sometimes you just need a hobby that's like literally like the reason why I like the coloring. And I think I actually went into analyzing this yesterday because I was like, why is it as I'm in this recovery mode, if I feel like stressed and overwhelmed, like there was one day where my doctor's appointment got cancelled last minute. I was on the way to see the doctor to take my cast off, and they cancelled the appointment. And I was literally like, where's my colouring book? Like, I need my colouring book. But what I realised is it's because of control. Like in this season, I don't have control over how quickly this leg is healing. I don't have control over the doctors and whether they're going to see me. But I can control what colours I colour this picture, and like staying in the lines or not staying in the lines. And so I realised that it's giving me something. And so for you, it's like, what are you solving for? Like, what are you feeling in the moment? And then like, are there activities that can help with that? Like if you're stressed, it's like dance so that you can just let everything out. And so I think, yeah, taking the time to kind of, what do I need?
What do I need? And, you know, it may sound like the most simple thing to ask ourselves, but not many of us do. What is it do I need? Especially if you're someone who is accustomed to taking care of others and your well-being is put in the back burner for whatever reason it may look like. Like, listen, we have those seasons where it's just tough. But even in those seasons, how can we just commit to one small thing for ourselves so we can say that we showed up for ourselves in some way? An example of like showing up for ourselves that people may not even put in a bucket is clearing your desk, cleaning your desk. It is proven that when you have a cluttered space, you have a cluttered mind, and that's going to impact your mental health. It can impact your productivity and all the things. So literally think about what your day-to-day looks like and what are the small things you could do to improve your quality of life. And we may not realize it until we do it or we get guidance on it, but there's plenty of ways that we can do so.
Yeah. So good. So good. Oh, so many gems. I want to ask you some quick fire questions.
Okay.
We just talked about like finding your thing that can help. What is your, I mean, you have fitness, you have all the things, but what's one thing you use to like unwind when you are coming off of a busy period, or like you're just feeling like this is a lot to hold, I'm doing all these things. What do you do?
Great question. So I'd say I'll put this in two buckets. If there is stress that I need to release, I love to dance. I'm a Caribbean girl. I will put on my favorite soca dancehall. There is literally, I love all forms of music, but there is something about Caribbean music that just releases any tension, stress, and I will just dance to my favorite jams, and it really brings me into the best place. The other end would be if I just want to slow it down and find time for myself. I am an extroverted introvert. So because I have a role that is very people oriented and I'm on social media and it requires a lot of me, I also recharge not being around people. So I have to be really cognizant of what it looks like to fill up my cup. I love to read. I'll do like treat myself like a spa day. There's some things I obviously can't do spa days all the time, but picking up a good book that doesn't necessarily have to be about something I need to learn or career development or any of that, just a book to be. And that helps me kind of separate myself from the world of doing and just being present in the moment.
Being. Oh, I love that. Love it. So as a leader of your business and of a movement, what would you say is a tool or an app that you find useful for your day-to-day?
Ooh, we got to talk about AI.
Yeah. Of course.
So I would say, so with you saying as a leader, where my mind immediately went is how much time, effort, and investment I've put into delegating better and getting help. Because when I first started my business, it was like, wearing all the hats. And I realized that I'm a better person. I'm a better expert. I show up better in the world when I have help executing my vision. So I preface that because a tool that has helped me a ton is Firefly's AI, which is a tool that helps with when I'm having meetings and calls, just helps takes notes and give the summary and does the takeaways, because I can be and it allows me to be so present in the conversation that I'm having that it has changed the game for me. It makes it easier for me to delegate to my team if there's any major takeaways. So that's what first came to mind. I would say outside of the career productivity side of things, just there are wellness apps. I live by my Aura Ring. I love data. Data don't lie. If it's telling me I'm not getting enough sleep, it's right. So I think it's helped me just stay accountable to certain habits that's important for me to show up in this world and continue to be and make a big impact. So the Oura Ring has really changed the game for me and reminds me when I need to move my body more and take more steps. It reminds me of any stress levels if I'm getting enough sleep. So just really any wellness tracker of any sort, I usually encourage folks to invest in, because we may know that we're not getting enough sleep, but when you see the data and how it really calls you out, it's like, okay.
And I think that's so good, because we can often, just like we do with time, right? Where you're like, it's only going to take me half an hour. And then before you know it, it's like an hour and a half has gone by. Like, I think in retrospect, you're like, I only spent like 10 minutes on social media. And then you look at your app and it's like, that was like 3 hours. Like, what? So I think we don't have like an accurate assessment sometimes of how we're spending our time or what we're doing. So yeah, getting the data, that sounds really good. I need to look.
Yes. And I'll add one more, because I think I talk about this across social medias, but the importance of walking. Right now, you will see all studies, all the research shows that sitting is legit the new smoking. We're doing a lot of sitting, right? And while working from home has served so many of us, we're also sitting a whole lot more than we have in the past, especially if you don't need to commute anywhere and you're working longer hours because you're not commuting. So a tool, if the weather is too cold or you may not be excited to go on outdoor walks or leave your home, is investing in a walking pad and like walking, because there's moments that you can do between meetings. You can do it during meetings. You can do it while you watch TV. If you can set a habit, if you're going to scroll on social media, then you scroll while walking on the treadmill. Like, there's so many ways that I've seen it work creatively, but like getting in time to move your body, because it counts. Even if you can't pick up a weight or go to the gym, walking matters so very much.
Yes. Absolutely. And I think finding things that go with it that are like that you enjoy. I did a little while ago, I started doing like gratitude walks. And so you just literally go and then you say like what you're grateful for. And then one day I was going and my son was like, "Oh, mommy, can I come with you?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And it was so beautiful, because I was like, "What are you grateful for?" And then just hearing him like kind of share the things that he's grateful for, I'm like, "Oh, look, we got our steps in and we had connection." Like you can add to it, right? It doesn't just have to go for a walk and everyone go for a walk. It's like, take your partner, take a friend, take a child.
Yes. I love that you mentioned that, because that's something myself and my husband does. It actually gives us more dedicated time to catch up, because we both work from home. So rather than like having those moments that could be disruptive during the day, it's okay, let's go set a time. We'll go on a walk and we discuss like how the day was, anything that we need to discuss for our family, but it's great quality time. And even if it's not someone in person, you can go on a walk and catch up with someone who may be from afar over a phone call, right?
Yeah.
So I love that you mentioned that.
So good. Yeah. Walking. Simple. So simple.
If you're listening to this, I hope that's probably one of your biggest takeaways, is that you do not need to make your wellness journey more complex than it needs to. Start with the simple things.
Yes, 100%. Is there a saying or a mantra or a quote that you either live by or that you like to share, or that's like inspired you?
I would say if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you.
Ooh.
It's between that and old keys can't unlock new doors. So knowing that there are changes that need to happen in order to evolve in order to become the best version of ourselves, whether that be professionally, whether that be personally, knowing that change can be hard, but it needs to happen in order for you to evolve and elevate.
Wow, that's a mic drop. I'm like, yes, take that. Quote that goes out on the quote card, like post or whatever we're going to do. So yeah, thank you. That might just been for me, guys. If it wasn't for you, that was definitely for me. So thank you.
I love it.
So good. All right. So as we wrap up, because I could speak to you all day, but you're a busy lady. What is you just shared like one thing you want people to take away, but like where is the best place for people to find you? Is there anything that you're like super excited about right now that you want to share with people?
Yeah. So I'll start with what I'm excited about. Something that is just near and dear to me in the work that I'm doing, that I reference a little bit on this podcast, is creating spaces for women to really take a pause and reset, recharge, and whatever it is they need to do to get to build the healthiest version of themselves, even if it's in a healthy short time. So if there's any interest in doing your very first wellness retreat, you can find me on gymhooky.com. I share the experiences that the ladies have had. We're going to Costa Rica this year in June, as well as Bali in September. So if either of those places are on your bucket list,
yes,
we would love to have you. And then I'd say the other is I haven't talked about this yet, but I'll sprinkle a little bit in, but I'm working on building a new brand. You heard it first here, friends. I'm working on building a brand that is near and dear to me. One of my biggest goals is to get women to lift more weights using dumbbells, because as we get older, we are losing muscle mass and we're not lifting as much weights as we could for very many reasons. My goal is to make strength training a whole vibe. So I am creating a concept that's going to be music driven and giving strength training so much excitement, and it be a whole vibe.
Oh this is so exciting.
Yes, thank you. It's going to be very fun. So that's something that I've been putting a lot of time and effort into. Had a shoot yesterday for it, for the brand shoot. So very exciting. As far as where you can find me, I am all over the social media streets. I'm on LinkedIn, so you can find me Ariel Belgrave Harris. If you want to find me on Instagram, it's Gym Hooky, GYMHOOKY. That's also my website, www.gymhooky.com. If there's any questions you have, I truly am an open book about my journey. Just let me know and I'll be happy to have the conversation.
Thank you so much for sharing. I'm so excited about this weight training. I'm going to keep my eyes peeled, because I feel like weight training is one of those things where like I do it as part of the workouts that I do, but it's not the funnest part of it, right? Like I like doing dance up, I like doing like, those kind of movement stuff. And then when I have to do the weights, I'm like, okay, come on, let's do it.
I gotta do it. Yes, exactly. And I think specifically for women, historically, it's just always been very male dominated space, right? When you go to a gym, you see like the dark gyms, the steel, like there's no like vibrant colors. Like when I look at your background of the paint on your wall, I'm like, that's the vibe I'm going for. We're bringing energy and vibrancy to strength training. Like we going loud and bold.
It's so good. I love it. And it's the whole, like, you can create what you want to see, right? Like you're like, I want more people to be doing weight training. And I also like dancing and fun. So like, let's do it together. Why not? It's just
nailed it. That's exactly it.
Thank you so much for being here and for sharing all of your gems, your journey. And also just like, thank you for leaning into your gift, what you're able to share with the world, because like you've created lots of things that have been impactful for so many women and will be for so many more. But like you didn't have to. So it's like, thank you for choosing to go all in on your dream, which is then having this amazing ripple effect for everybody. So
I receive every single word. Thank you. And thank you for creating this space. My hope is that it can inspire someone on their own journey.
So many actionable steps that you can take to improve your wellness in some way, shape or form, whether that is you carving out time for rest or you setting boundaries or you just walking more, there are small micro steps that you can take that are going to make a huge difference to how you feel and how you show up. So I hope you were taking notes. If you weren't, go back and listen again. I'll put links in the show notes to Ariel's website and her LinkedIn profile and her Instagram. Make sure you follow her because she does share some awesome content around how you can be looking after yourself more. All right, that's all from me today. We'll be back again with another amazing interview very, very soon. Until then, look after yourself and keep moving towards your career goals.